want to say a bit about submarines and warfare and how the invention of submarines changed the rules of marine warfare. So before submarines came along, marine warfare was like the most gentlemanly approach to warfare you could imagine. Weren't any civilians around, everything's done above board and according to standardized rules and methods. And here's the rules governing merchant ships when a merchant ship came along before submarines. If they're carrying military supplies, then you can stop them, board them, seize them, and take them to port. If not carrying military supplies, leave them alone. If they resist, then you can use as much force as you need to subdue them. But as soon as they submit peacefully, or if they submit peacefully right off the bat, you're not allowed to use any force at all. And if you can't bring them to port, it's okay to sink the ship. So a case where you might not be able to bring them to port is if you don't have the crew to take them to port. It's okay to sink the ship. But you can only sink the ship after satisfying your absolute duty to provide for the safety of the crew, passengers, and others. You can capture merchants, but they're to be treated like civilians. They're not supposed to be treated like prisoners of war. And so before submarines came along, this was seen as a very gentlemanly thing. And the rules here were strict. But after submarines came along, and in particular with their introduction in World War I, a different policy became adopted based on military necessity. Submarines would sink merchant ships on sight. That was the policy. And there were a number of features of submarines that changed the equation, changed military necessity in such a way that they felt like they had to do this. So submarines can fire missiles, super powerful, they can go undetected, fire missiles, but they can only do it underwater. When they rise above water, they've got some wimpy guns, but they're really weak, only lightly armed. And so they're sitting ducks if they rise, somebody pops up out and says, hey, surrender. Submarines only had small crews, so they didn't have people to spare to send a ship back to port. And submarines had little room. They couldn't take more people on board. So they felt like they had to sink on sight. That was their only option. And if they used the old rules, if they went through this process here, they'd be sitting ducks. They'd lose control of the seas. And all of the advantages of submarines, all of the benefits of submarines would be wasted. So the main idea is that the rules changed after the introduction of this technology because the technology changed what became militarily necessary. Going through this process just wasn't feasible. Yet they thought you had to sink on sight. Now, some people were horrified by this, and after World War I, the sink on sight approach was condemned. But then in World War II, it just comes back.